disinformation about illegal immigration in the North American Union and one currency. He was putting it out intentionally. He had masters and handlers that were paying him to do it. And so, we know that there's a game afoot here. I just think that the problem we're having right now, Alex, is getting some of these agents are all around the immigration enforcement movement. They're on the inside. They're all around and on the inside of the Tea Party movement. They have, infiltrated, and we've got to do something. We have got to do something, Alex, to get the true blue people here together and soon to strengthen and improve communication and cooperation in a way that cannot be derailed by the infiltrators and the crazies. The best way to deal with it is to call it out when you see it, but to follow the people to their car, get their license number. You'll then discover they're a Fed or they're working for the Southern Poverty Law Center, and that's come out. But to also just continue to point out the AP article where these Democratic operatives in all 50 states organized and did go out. And it was also in New Mexico news. They even admitted to the news they would dress up like Nazis with racist signs, and they even admitted they were doing it. So as long as we explain to the public that most of this is provocateur, I think that's the most important message. Well, we're going to basically, the Tea Parties have been important and strong up to this point, but we're going to basically steer people away from the rally thing into the campaigns and elections, because we feel that is the number one place that the public can make the difference that it needs to make.
Yeah, we need to have Tea Parties inside the State House in hearings, inside the County Commissioner's Court, inside the City Council, not just dissipating all of our energy standing around in the street.
Well, each campaign for public office that's active right now is a mini organization in itself that needs money and people. And the candidates, I don't think that the Feds and the Democrats and others have a lot of agent provocateurs that are posing as candidates right now, and it's too late for them to create them. They are able to get activists out there, people at events, and events are the most vulnerable things that there are. But basically, these people are highly sophisticated liars. 99% of what I'm having to deal with and what the American public is having to deal with right now, I think could be described in two words: sophisticated liars.
Well said, my friend. Other points you want to get out there to the public. Let's talk about Mexico being a failed state and collapsing, and the acceleration of crime and murder, especially racial murder, including piracy now in places in Texas bordering Mexico.
Well, I've just recently heard about some of the piracy. Some of the piracy I would describe as illegal immigration itself as a form of piracy of the American citizenry in many ways. Mexico, the death count, and the situation there. I'll tell you a story that I think you'll appreciate, Alex. I got a guy that pops on my website every now and then, says he's a young man in Mexico who likes video games, but is sympathetic to our cause, or so he says. But he always sends me pictures and images and things about how the club he was near got shot up by the Mexican gangs the other night with blah, 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 people killed. So it's really hard for me to tell where this guy's coming from, but he sent me a message last week of a Los Zetas commando raid on a villa in Mexico where 5 to 15 cars rolled into this little town at 5:30 a.m., and apparently the government or the federales had some digital cameras set up that documented all this. And they got out and they blocked the roads and secured the access in a paramilitary fashion with their ski mask and their assault rifles, all converged on a villa of some drug lord or something and started firing through the windows or whatever. And he wanted to know what I thought of the tactics of Los Zetas. And I said the tactics of Los Zetas are horrible, and what you see here in this film is horrific. However, what you see here in this film could not happen in over half of America, because there are more armed men with more firepower than you see in this video within a 1-mile radius of my house due to a thing called the Second Amendment. And if that type of thing happened in a lot of neighborhoods around America at 5:30 in the morning after the first gunfire went off, a lot of people would open their windows and handle it from their bedrooms. That's what Mexico needs.
I see where you're going with this. This is the way they threaten you. I get the same stuff. What do you think of this? What do you think of how we'll kill you? Oh, are you concerned about that as a form of intimidation? So that's what it is, a threat.
It is, but it's also, my response is that because I live in the United States and because I'm a free American with First and Second Amendment rights, that came into my neighborhood, or still over half the neighborhoods in America, and tried that, they wouldn't get out scot-free. You're not gonna, or they wouldn't get away with it more than once. You know, the citizenry of America is armed, and we are arming ourselves in greater capacities every day, especially after watching trailers for films like Machete. And therefore, we, the people of the United States, are empowered. In Mexico, the government has guns, the gangs have guns, the people have none. And so they are perpetual victims. And
what do you think of the Mexican president? We're going to play this clip in a moment, coming out and talking about his people in America, his people and how they're being abused. This is a foreign power openly in the U.S. telling us what to do in our country. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that we should, every time he tries to step in the White House, he should be presented with a bill for his people in our country, an estimated bill. And each time he comes back, he should be handed the increased total bill and explain that he's not going to be allowed in the United States or in the White House or any other government institution, much less a couple years ago, Alex, he didn't even bother with stopping by the White House. He broke with diplomatic decorum and just entered the United States and traveled around the Southwest talking to his people. So I guess we're sort of better off that he actually stuck with a diplomatic protocol this time as the head of state and went to the White House instead of just walking into our country and going around talking to his people on his own. I think that he should be presented with a bill for the cost of his people.
Well, just imagine if, say, there were 30 million French in Germany, and the French president went to Germany and told the German government what to do and told the 30 million French to manipulate the political process in that country. That is an act of war. That is an act of subterfuge. That is an act of military overthrow, of conquest, of infosora, a law infosora. And no other country would put up with this. But because the globalists want this, it is allowed, and our media doesn't point out how outrageous this is. Let's go ahead and play a clip from the news covering this information.
For his part, the Mexican president said some things that were a bit more restrained than what he has said in his own country, which he called the Arizona law, which has not yet to go into effect, an opening to hate and discrimination in that state. Here's what he said about Arizona's immigration law on the South Lawn.
We can't do so with a community that will promote a dignified life in an orderly way for both our countries, who are some of them still living here in the shadows, with such laws as the Arizona law that is placing our people to face discrimination.
Face discrimination in Arizona. That's one of the reasons the Mexican government has issued a travel warning. Any Mexicans who may travel to Arizona, even though, as I said, the law has yet.
And now you've got these seditious boycotts by the city of Austin, and listen, I do tell people, even though I live here, boycott Austin because they're boycotting. And you should call the Austin City Council if you live in Texas or other areas and say, we're going to boycott you until you stop boycotting Arizona. And California's doing this. We're talking about not buying power from Arizona because the elites want to bust this country open. But while I have William Gheen with us for this segment, the next, maybe 5 minutes of the next hour, if he can do it, because I'm going to take a few calls. I'm sure Mr. Gheen already knows this because he's so well researched. But what I've discovered living in Austin and in other articles around the country, city council members' brothers in the past and others, the La Reconquista leaders in my town have been busted in the past. One of them was caught beating within an inch of their life some people they'd smuggled in as a coyote who hadn't paid all their cash. Others have been caught running whores in. Others have been caught running drugs in. And so really, this is just the Mexican mafia El Jefes who are here just over their people. They don't want them speaking English. They don't want them getting the Second Amendment. They want to keep them as slaves like they do in Mexico. And a lot of these La Reconquista leaders are just mafia criminals who are in political office.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. One of the things, here we have the president of a failed state trying to tell us how to run our business. But I got to tell you, I hope he will keep issuing advisories for Mexicans and Mexico to stay out of Arizona. Matter of fact, at this point, till we get this thing settled and our people calm down and their people calm down, I'd like for Mexico, the Mexican government, to issue travel advisories against anybody coming to the United States, like we're issuing travel advisories against anybody going to Mexico. Right now, anybody that goes to Mexico for a non-emergency reason is either massively misinformed, uninformed, or an idiot. And they need to stay out. Our people need to stay out. Our dollars need to stay at home. Mexico needs to stay out of here. I like the fact they're telling people not to go to Arizona. That works just fine for me. And another thing I want to point out, Alex, is that the reason that you see so many cities boycotting Arizona is because right now the globalists responsible for this treachery in America, I'm telling everybody, all their chips are in. All their chips are in the center of the table right now. And their strong points have been these very liberal, big money city arenas where it costs a lot of money. You have to be a liberal and you have to have a lot of money to get on the city councils to run a place like Boston and Los Angeles and New York. So these are the places where their globalist, no boundaries, no borders, agenda is still